As you've probably seen in the three videos before the next one, before the one that I kind of rant about on, certain actors and actresses being cast in certain iconic roles, you saw in four separate parts, four separate videos, me finally opening all of the issues that I have subscribed and received in the mail from 230 to 247. Worlds Collide excluded because I already opened those up, and it was just a crossover that had basically does have connections to the continuity, but not really. It was just basically a big time event. Just a big time event, crossover event that Capcom and Sega wanted to do, and Archie did it. But as I was going to try to say earlier today, and I almost did this in two parts because, well, my nephew got dropped off about an hour because his mom had to go do something, and he wanted to play his new Star Fox Assault game that he got in the mail. But anyway, point is, I looked through, as you'll see in the videos, I skimmed through, I looked through from 230 to 247. I looked at the issues, I looked at them, and quite frankly, folks, you could pretty much tell in the first issue, in the first video or so, I kind of get that uneasy feeling at times. Because like I said, I'll probably say this in a text version format that I'll put on the message boards, along with this on one of the message boards, not on the stadium or anything, but other message boards. But basically, I said honestly that I just could not, I could not picture this character here saying and doing the things that she did, even though she was doing it against her will. And I just got that uneasy feeling like this is not the character I knew or anybody else knew. So I kind of had that uneasy feeling at times. But when I looked through this, or I looked through all 17 issues before Worlds Collide, I can definitely say this. They definitely were trying. I can say this. One of the things that people complimented Ian Flynn on doing was the fact that he was going to use this opportunity to put the spotlight and focus on other characters that got shunned, because they pretty much felt that this character, along with several other characters, were getting too much of the spotlight. Well, what surprised me wasn't just the fact that you had certain characters that many felt deserved to get the spotlight, or needed or earned that spotlight opportunity, finally get it. But I also saw characters you wouldn't expect getting that opportunity. Honestly, that's the truth. There were characters you wouldn't have expected that got this opportunity. For example, Lita and Laiko. If Ian Flynn would have told any of you that, oh, by the way, two of the characters I'm going to focus on the most in some of my upcoming story arcs is the Wolf Twins, or the Pink Wolf Twins from the Wolf Pack, no one would have believed you. But yet they focused on it. And that was pretty good. It gave them opportunity. I really liked that. I really did. One character that surprised me a lot more than anything was Isabel Mongoose, Mina/Mina's mom. And the reason it surprised me that she got some focus was because of the backup story that took place in one of the issues called Heart to Heart. And basically Isabel, I guess through the encouragement of her daughter, was solely responsible for getting Nicole back in on the good side of the people, along with her daughter's help, of course. But it really surprised me that her character got some focus. I mean, if somebody would have said, by the way, Isabel Mongoose, Mina's mom, is going to get some spotlight thrown on her, no one would have said anything. And then 247, Irma Ima, whatever her species is. She gets spotlight thrown on her. And how? she gets spotlight thrown on her due to the fact that she kind of, not kind of, but basically she deciphers and understands Silver's explanation. When Silver comes out and explains, hey, Sally's the traitor and this is why, she basically kind of deciphers and kind of, I guess in English, if you will, explains that between their time and Silver's time, which is 200 years, you know, and through that 200 years you got destruction and freedom fighters gone, that the message could have been lost. That the message of whoever the traitor was could have been lost throughout history. That basically the historians 200 years in the future, or going into 200 years in the future, may have not gotten the facts straight due to all the destruction and did not know the traitor was going against their will, or that even robotization existed. And to me, that was kind of cool to see her get a little spotlight as well. So yeah, for anybody that was always questioning, this character needs to get spotlight, that character, oh yeah, you got what you wanted, but you even got characters you wouldn't have seen coming getting that spotlight. Now, another thing that really screwed with people though, was Bunny Rabbit. Bunny Rabbit, who, if you remember, in the original 48-page, in the original Supersonic special, 48-page comic book special, Girls Rule, she had her cybernetics replaced, her roboticized ones replaced with almost, or not organic, but very, I guess you could say more slimmer, more upgraded cybernetics. Now, basically, when people read that story, they heard that through continuity, there was no way she could be de-roboticized. That when getting those cybernetics, getting that upgrade, she basically gave up any chance of being flesh and blood again. Yet, what happens in about, 233, I believe? Or not 233, 230, yeah, 230, 231 or something? She ends up getting her flesh and blood back. She ends up being restored by Nagas. You know, so in the backup story they do too is kind of cool, because it kind of, you know, at that moment, kind of at the encouragement of Antoine, it's like, look, you know, you may not have your cybernetics, but you're still a freedom fighter through and through. But then yet what happens, and this again gets on fans' nerves, is Ian Flynn basically turns that around and she goes OOC, MIA, back to her Uncle Beauregard. To what? To what? Get legionized and get her cybernetics back. You know, so again, that's one thing that kind of got on the nerves of some fans. It's like, wait a minute, you just DEM, Deus Ex Machina, if you will, or Deus Ex Machina, a continuity deal that was never supposed to be DEM'd. It was never supposed to be copped out, if you know what I mean. And yet it was. And again, that's what ticked some of fans off, because of the fact that Ian Flynn just basically took what was established in the continuity and threw it out the window. And it pissed people off. But it wasn't just that either. Of course we got Sally's robotization. And when I read the scene where she was before she got roboticized, basically, here's what I think a lot of people misunderstood. Basically, the scene was Nicole couldn't get in, was locked. Nicole was locked, and the Eggman basically locked out any hacking or any chance for people to hack into the system. If you will, it was basically encrypted his system. So basically, Nicole said it would take her hours to even crack the code to try to get in, and yet Sally says, "Look, we don't have hours. We have minutes." He says, and basically she's asking her, "What else can you do in this short amount of time?" And then Nicole says, "Well, I can direct the beam right at this location, but you would not be immune." And this is to me, where a lot of people kind of get mixed reactions. Sally basically saying, look, I have a second chance at life, and I'm going to use this second chance to save my family, to save my friends, to save the planet I love, to save the hedgehog I love, even if it's at the cost of my own freedom, of my own free will. And I will admit that is a good, strong character development moment for her. I will admit that, even though I don't like the result. And I've admitted that. I didn't like seeing her roboticized. Because obviously, again, she's saying and doing things that, against her will, no control over, but I just couldn't imagine her saying it anyway. Another thing that I noticed with this whole roboticization and then later on the weaponization modification deal, one other thing I've noticed was a lot of people were always complaining that she got gutted. She was tore apart. Now, some people might see the scene where, Eggman looks like he's got 2 bars in his hand and he's saying, oh yeah, this will do nicely. To me, that's kind of like measuring. It's like, okay, he's measuring exactly the length he needs. And then you take a look at the thing on top of her head. You think, okay, he's going to use that to pop her head off and then he's going to put a new body on her. No, that thing that was on her head, it's kind of like what people use to measure round objects. Something like that. That's basically what it was if you look at the design. So, no matter how you look at it, I don't think honestly she was taken apart. I don't think she was rebuilt into what she was. I think honestly, just my honest opinion, and if I'm proven wrong in the next few issues, I'll admit I'm wrong. I'll admit that I'm wrong, but in my personal opinion, because I looked at the littlest details, and this kind of pretty much confirmed with me that she has weaponized armor, is the way the armor was designed. It looked like to me he was fitting her for what would be armor. Not, hey, I'm going to take off the arm and all that. No. He basically placed weaponized armor on her. That's what he did. He welded weaponized armor on her. And to me, when you take a look at the laser cannon in the head, he didn't take her brain out or anything. He just basically connected a laser cannon so that with her thoughts, she could activate it and it would come out of her head. That's it. But again, here's the little detail that kind of confirms to me that it was weaponized armor. When she's in the fight, and this is before Endangered Species, I think it's about 241 or something like that. When she's looking for Elias. When she's ordered to go and assassinate Elias. Here's what confirmed me. They got this big splash scene on top of the 2 pages to connect 2 of the pages. And it's Amy and Sally going at each other. And basically Sally's tail is still sticking out. And it's brown. Now, if she was completely weaponized and modified, then why does it look like her tail's sticking out of what would be like a uniform or something like that? Huh? To me, that's weaponized armor. That's all it is. All it will be, that's all it is, all it shall be, all it was, in my opinion. And again, if I'm proven wrong, I will admit I'm wrong. Now again, some of the things, again, like I said, that she said in her mechanized form, I just could not really get into, honestly. Because again, I can't imagine the character that I've watched and read for 20 years saying and doing those kind of things. I can't. I mean, obviously obviously what he was doing, even script-wise was doing, was having her play, at times, play on the emotions, like with Amy. Basically digging into her past of, hey, if you give, like the one line she gave Amy, like, hey, you could hide the truth in all this all you want. But if you got rid of me, it would free you to court Sonic. And that basically, to some fans, if you look and read between the lines, was kind of like a half-truth. And I think we're going to learn more about robotization in the future issues. Like maybe robotization brings out sides of you that you don't want people to see. You don't want people to find out about. And if that's the case, then yeah, that could be character development there in the near future, but we don't know. But speaking of which, you know, when we got to 237 and 238, you know, this is where it tells me Ian was planning on going, that Ian was originally planning on going in the direction that he had originally planned from beginning to end, before all the interference took place behind the scenes. You see, when I read 237, and mostly 238, in her confrontation with Tails, you know, Sally, if Sally was completely gone, if you will, she wouldn't have given Tails the option of, hey, look, what's more important? Saving me or saving these people? What's more important? Basically, to me, when she had that little talk with Tails, it's like there was a part of her that was free still. Her free will was coming through. It was trying to convince Tails, look. And then when she said, I don't need saving, a part of her, it was, to me, there was a part of her that was becoming free again. Because let's not forget, and I think this is an oversight by people, Sonic Universe had the Eggman Scrambled arc. In her fight with Monkey Kong had to replace her drained out modified Power Ring, which Eggman modified. That's one thing people also seem to oversight. Eggman used a modified Power Ring because he didn't want it to have the side effects of the other Power Rings, and that's give her free will. Just use it as a power source. Basically, to me, the crown that was Monkey Kong's crown, the Power Ring he gave her to replace it, was the Power Ring thing that was starting to slowly help her regain her free will. And again, you can see that in 238. You can see that. And you can see that even in the following issue or so when she's trying to hunt down Elizus. You know, she goes in there, and it's almost like, you know, it's like honestly, if she was totally gone, folks, script-wise, if she was totally gone, she would have aimed right for that hut before anybody else would have gotten there. Before Elizus would have left, she would have aimed right for that hut. But she didn't. She didn't aim for that hut. And that tells me, just by reading those issues and looking at those details, that I think Ian originally was planning for her to regain her free will, and then being like the first step, and then the next step being the de-robotization. I think that's originally what he had planned. And you could see that. You could see that. And I know some people might argue, well, that's not true. Well, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? It is, in my opinion. Because you got to pay attention to the littlest details. And I just looked through some of the issues myself today, or yesterday, and I caught on, along with all the summaries and stuff that I've read through the past 2 years, and I caught on just like that. I mean, folks, it's easy to decipher if you take the time. If you stop complaining, stop saying things like this and that, you need time to decipher exactly what's going on. Alright? You need to decipher it. Now when you look at endangered species, yeah, you can pretty much tell where he wanted to go within the first issue of that sub-arc. But you could also tell in the next issue or so where things started to go askew and he had to rewrite things differently. So you can see that in the second part of the endangered species sub-arc. You can pretty much see that. Where things started to go woohoo, kind of like out the window. Now one of the things that I think bugged a lot of people was the fact that a lot of the characters, like Sonic, like Amy, and a few others, was being OOC, out of character. Well, when you take a look at it from a reality standpoint, which I think Ian Flynn was trying to use as an example, you take a look at it from a reality standpoint, folks, it was a lot of stress and pressure. It was basically all the stress all the emotional stress that they had gone through. And the last thing you need is someone showing up and accusing one of your friends, a friend that happens to be lying in a hospital in a coma, of being a traitor. That's the last button you need pushed before you snap. And from a reality standpoint, because, okay, think about it this way. If you were put under a lot of emotional stress and someone came up to you and said, oh, by the way, this is what happened and blah, 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 and it's something you did not want to hear, wouldn't you snap? Yes, you would. Yes, you would. That is basically how I think Ian Flynn was doing this. He was doing it from a reality standpoint. And I think we need to acknowledge that. I think we need to realize that's where he was coming from, whether we like what the guy did or not. I mean, I don't like particularly the fact that he roboticized Sally, he had her mechanized and all that. I don't really care for that. I don't, being a longtime fan. But I realized he did it because it was going to be part of the story arc. And then looking through the issues, especially going from 238 and then the following issue, you could tell, well, he was starting to take the steps to get Sally to regain her free will and have her free will restored, and then the next step being de-robotization. You can pretty much see that. You can pretty much see that. And again, it's just the littlest of details that people seem to overlook. And to me, I'm not overlooking it. That was always, you see, that's always been something with me. When I look at the details, when I read a comic or something, I always like to look at the details. That is why I've always been spot on about some of the things I've predicted and talked about throughout the course of my subscription to this comic, or throughout my course of being a fan of this comic. I've pretty much, especially here on the internet, you ask anybody that's been reading what I've had to say or listening to what I've had to say, and they will tell you the same thing, that I've been almost spot on with a few things that I've talked about that were going to happen in this comic, or were being planned, or were going to be similar in some ways of happening, and they did. And when I look at these issues, pretty much tells me exactly where Ian was going with it. He was going to have her regain her free will first, then be restored back to normal. That's how I think he was going. And I think a lot of people know that too. Because you got to look at the littlest of details. Now again, I like the fact that they did put some focus on other characters. Like I said, some that you wouldn't have expected. You know, I like the fact that he had Cream of all characters, who recently came onto the book, not that long ago, became a main part of the comic, not that long ago. Had Cream be the one to decipher exactly what the Tails doll was about, or what the Tails doll's motives were about. I like how she was able to decipher that, and I like how the adults didn't just, say, oh, you're just imagining things. I like how the adults are like, you know what? You're probably right. Eggman, that probably something crazy enough for Eggman to even. I mean, I like how Rhoda looks at her and takes her seriously and says, you know what? You're onto something. That would be something. That would be crazy enough for Eggman to pull or try. So I like that. Now the artwork in some of them, in some of the issues, I will admit were good. I liked the little action sequence with, I think it was Lita, the Lita wolf, I think, when she was kicking Drago's butt again. I really liked that. That was really, really cool. I thought that was awesome. So, again, there was things I liked about it. To me, honestly, all this has been, folks, is a bumpy ride that we've been taken on, that Ian Flynn took us on for the past 17 issues, Worlds Collide included or excluded, for the past 17 to 18 issues. And it's just going to get it's either going to get smoother or more bumpier. It's either going to get smoother or more bumpier. Again, I like the fact that a lot of characters got opportunities to shine. There were some things, I admit, there were some down moments, there were some good moments. And again, that's why it was a bit of a bumpy ride for a lot of fans. Was it the best, honestly, was it the best time for Ian Flynn to do the story arc? Honestly, I don't think so. I think he should have waited. I think he should have made sure that there was nothing going on, or at least someone one of the higher ups at Archie should have at least let him know, hey, this is what's going on behind the scenes. You might want to make a backup or something, a backup story, or you might want to alter certain parts of the story just in case. You know, they should have had him prepared. That's all I'm going to say. Whether he should have had, whether we blame him or not, or whether he has to share some of the blame, they should have at least let him know what was going on so he could be ready. So my point is this. I look at it and I consider it 230 to 247, and if you want to include Worlds Collide or not include it, I look at it like this, along with 252, as being a bumpy ride that he took us on, and it's just going to get either more bumpier or it's going to get smoother. That's all we have to look forward to. Again, I like the fact that certain characters did get opportunities to shine. There's no doubt about it. I like the fact that, you know, you actually, I like the fact that there was character development. I like the fact that you had a backup story to where, you know, Mina admitted her wrongness and that she was just trying to get the right message across, and she didn't mean for it to get, you know, scrambled the way it was. You know, it was cool. The one thing I will admit that I totally agree with everybody that shouldn't have been done, because you only got like a few pages of the current story arc added as a backup story. One thing I will admit was not good timing was 242. Because 242 should have came out, that story should have came out during the Olympics run, not after. And I think a lot of people know that to be true. So, that's all I'm going to say. Overall, like I said, I'll look at it and I consider it a C+ bumpy ride that as we get towards Countdown to Chaos and later down the line, it's either going to get smoothed out or it's going to get bumpier. So, let me know what you guys think, if you agree with this. I will provide a link down below in the description of the DeviantArt page where you can see exactly the issues that are open, as well as probably provide a link down there of the playlist where you can see the full part videos of me opening those issues finally after all this time. So that's all I'm going to say. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Take your time in watching this. Take your time in watching the playlist of the opening of the issues. And that's all I'm going to say. God bless. Take care. And I am out. And hey, I promised I was going to open those issues, and I finally did. And I promised an overall review, and here it was. So peace out, God bless. Let me know what you guys think down below, and I'll provide I'll provide links to the playlist and to the pictures, and maybe even to the text version as well of what I'm saying here in this video. So peace out, God bless, take care.